And I offer just a quick audience, a quick checklist for helping me understand better my audience before I start doing content creation. So what is my audience current relationship to my brand, right? What information needs does my audience have? We touched on that. What are my audience interests and desires? All this should be driving the creation of content. Thinking about the decision-making power my audience has. Is this the audience? Is this audience that's going to be buying my product, or are they influencing someone else that's buying my product? What would cause my audience to respond and engage? What type of language should I be using? This influences the tone of voice to which I'm speaking to my audience. The second part of content strategy is looking at the operation, right? How do all these pieces work together to publish content? This is an opportunity to examine the resources I have available to me to create, both from human capital perspective as well as technology. Something as simple as, do I have copywriters, right? Do I have people who can come up with the ideas for content? Do I have, what type of technology? Do I have a flip camera or some means of capturing media? Come up with a flow chart for your publishing structure, right? Where is all the content from within your organization coming? Is it coming from PR marketing? Who's kind of your editorial point, the person who's taking the flow of information and publishing it out to an audience, measuring how they're reacting to it and then engaging with them. Put together, it's just a helpful way of understanding how the content will be created with your organization and find an intended audience. And here's again just a quick checklist that I want to offer up that I think is helpful for figuring out the operational aspect of creating content. So who owns the editorial vision? Who's coming up with the ideas for what we should be providing to our audience? Which parts of my organization are contributing to content? Is it everyone? Is there a way that you can bubble up from within the organization ideas for content that an audience would find of value? I say, who's my editorial point guard, right? Who's the one calling the shots and coordinating all these different pieces within my organization? What type of media capture resources do I have? Do I have a team? If I'm a school, is there, could I rely on a student organization that's capturing a lot of media around campus? Budget's obviously an important one. These are all different items I want to consider that are part of my operation when going to create content. And how is all this going to scale? Under what circumstances would I want to grow the content capabilities of my brand? And finally, getting to measurement. This has to be a part of your content strategy. So I'm looking to connect my audience. I have business objectives and goals. I have an audience. How do I use content to achieve my business objectives and goals, right? If I'm looking to increase my brand's reputation, what type of content can I deliver out to an audience that will do this? How am I going to measure it, right? Measuring the effectiveness of content. Am I measuring it based on impressions? How do I measure the reach of the content? How am I measuring audience response? And measuring the impact of this content on the objectives and goals. And also an important part of measurement is measuring my audience composition. Am I targeting the right audience? What available information do I have to me to determine if this is the right audience? And just another quick checklist. Which business goals is content creation supporting? What metrics are connected to these business goals? What metrics are connected to my content, right? What do I have available to me to measure the content I'm pushing out? And so moving on strategy, I want to offer up 8 approaches to creating and publishing content, right? So want to give a bit of inspiration for how do I create content of value to my audience. So with my strategy and audience in mind, I'm going to initiate the creation. And these approaches are going to help you expand your content offering. So it's easy to come up with ways of pushing out promotions or sales, right? The other part of content. But this is more, how do I guide the photos and the videos I create? And this type of content, how does this support brand reputation, strengthening customer affinity, right? Content to reach customers on the fringe. What is that content I'm giving to my brand advocates to be a part of the 60% that are more likely to go out and recommend my brand to someone else? So the first approach that I recommend is a content audit, right? Let's start out, let's look at what content I already have available to me that we've created. Are we creating regular blog posts somewhere? Is this something that I could publish out to my social network? Do we have existing photos or videos? I picked out Washington University in St. Louis. They do a really nice job. They're changing out the photos on their homepage the other day. And so this is content available to them, photos that another part of the organization is creating that are part of something that they could share with their social network. So that's part of the content audit. Content audit is looking at what my competition is publishing out in terms of content, using this as potential guidance. It's also possible that your content that you are currently producing with your organization doesn't match your strategy. It's not going to help you achieve the business goals you set out. It doesn't really line up well with what your audience information needs are. Approach number 2, create an editorial calendar. So this is, I think this is an amazing piece of guidance as I'm creating content. It gives me some type of structure for the whole content creation process, so that I know a month out that, in addition to all the interaction that I'm, the different, editorial calendar just helps you focus. And one part of an editorial calendar that I think is really important is coming up with reoccurring series of content. I wanted to highlight at the bottom Stanford University. They come up with these reoccurring series of content that they can publish out. One, open office hours, where they're looking within their organization. They're doing quick segments with their teachers, or 60 seconds for the Stanford Athletics page, where they're doing just a quick 60 seconds interview with an athlete, right? This is reoccurring series of content that your audience can come to expect. It sets expectations internally. We know that 2 weeks we're going to be producing this. It just gives you some structure to the entire process. So coming up with an editorial calendar. And I would really recommend, you want to plan far ahead enough that you can resource, but you want to make sure you're leaving yourself room to adapt. How is the audience responding to this? Is this content that they, seem to be enjoying? If not, you don't want to resource out months in advance to have this content produced if it's not working. But just coming up with an editorial calendar is a really helpful way to give structure to the content creation process. Approach number 3 is tell stories, right? Look within your organization. Your organization is a daily source of stories, whether it's Chevrolet, right, that has employees going out and volunteering for Habitat for Humanity. That's a story that I want to share with my audience. It's a way of positioning my brand among my audience, right? Showing my audience that I'm connected to my local community. But just, I call it putting your content goggles on. Look around your organization, or look at your customers, right? And what type of stories emerge. Share these stories as part of the content that you're creating. This is a way of creating brand affinity. I call out Washington University again. I think they did a great job where anything they have, small things going around campus that potential students might find of interest. They do a really nice job balancing photos and text to tell a story. But turn your brand into a storyteller, right? That's part of what being a publisher is telling stories and using those stories to position your brand. Approach number 4, I find this really helpful when trying to create content, is the inside line. You'd be really surprised by what it is your fans find interesting about your brand, even the smallest minutia, right? An inside look creates a deeper connection to your brand. It makes me feel like I'm part of the organization. The smallest things, so, and it's a way of, I say, squeezing more out of your marketing endeavors. So if Southwest Airlines is creating a commercial, create some additional content. Think of it like a DVD. Create behind-the-scenes content. Squeeze more out of it. Take a camera with you to, the events that you might be going. If you're, Ben & Jerry's is going to the Green Festival in Washington, D.C. Take a camera along. Squeeze a bit more content out of it, giving your audience an inside perspective into what your brand is doing. Approach number 5.